It's one thing to see it, but it's one thing to actually witness all of these incidents. People are slowly trickling their way into this coffee shop. It's actually the first in-person neighborhood meeting since the pandemic started. People will get to ask questions and hear from DC police. Now, all of this because of that really upsetting video of an incident, not only because of that Nats shooting last weekend, but also video that captured illegal street racing and the blocking of a major intersection. It was fast, furious, and dangerous. The screeching noises of cars echoing the streets of Navy Yard woke up this witness who recorded the incident on his phone.
Very young people sitting in the middle of the intersection doing donuts around the people standing or sitting in the middle of the intersection. It's very coordinated. It's very reckless. There's a lot of people, there's actually families standing on the corner watching.
DC police now searching for drivers of at least 4 vehicles seen doing donuts, burnouts, and drifting in the middle of 4th and Tingley Street in Southeast last Saturday night. It's concerning for neighbors who fear someone could have been hurt or killed.
In the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot more incidents of people drag racing, mopeds, dirt bikes.
That's not fun. It's creating a hazard.
Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner Edward Daniels says that night was a lot to handle. Just earlier, gunfire between 2 cars injured 3 people and sent fans at Nats Park scrambling for safety.
And at this point, it seems that these people are just testing the limits of what they can get away with.
He's bringing back a neighborhood meeting in person at this coffee shop to discuss with police the latest events and how to make sure people are safe in the community, undergoing fast and loud changes.
They can't create more of a public hazard by running and chasing these people, out of the neighborhood. So I think we just need more police presence down here in general.
The commissioner also questioned whether or not the shooting outside of Nats Park and that drag racing may actually be connected. We asked DC police about that, and they say so far there is no evidence suggesting that. In the meantime, though, they are searching for more additional videos of the incident in this intersection. In Navy Yard, I'm Matthew Torres, WUSA 9.